Before we get started, I just have to say I'm trying to monetize this channel, and there's two things that I need. One is 4,000 hours of watch time in the last year, and I'm almost there. And the other is 1,000 subscribers. As it sits, I'm not even close. I really appreciate everyone who is subscribed, but I just have to seriously ask, if you watch these videos, please, for the love of God, subscribe. I promised my wife that it was going to be all champagne and caviar once that YouTube money started rolling in, and as it sits, she'd be pretty impressed if I could take her out for a hot dog and a glass of orange juice. So anyways, let's get at it. Alright folks, well let me tell you, we are long overdue for an update. As you can see behind me, the cab is now sitting on the frame, which means I've officially started putting this truck back together. So as you'll see here, I got my leaf springs. I painted them, I think you saw that earlier on, but I got those all put together. Those are looking great. The front axle, now this was a pretty big job. You know, if you watched the video where I redid the rear axle, that was a lot of work, but when you start looking in all these little spaces in here, trying to get that stuff cleaned up is like really challenging. So I had to use a different kind of paint. There's pretty much no way I could have gotten rid of all the rust. So I degreased it very thoroughly and used some stuff called Dom 16, which is very similar to Pour 15. It's like a rust paint where it penetrates in and kills the rust. Anyways, that's, you know, a lot of work right there. The second item, which was something I really was not looking forward to, and it was every bit as bad as I thought it would be, was the bottom of the cab. After the years and years and years of leaks coming from everywhere on this truck, the bottom of the cab had a layer of just tar and crap on it that you cannot even imagine. It was like, it almost resembled undercoating, but it very much was just crap. Okay, well, I'm almost done cleaning the bottom of the cab. It was just covered in grease, like you would not believe. This is day number 2 of scrubbing. And this is kind of the stuff I'm talking about. Sorry, it's hard to show, but like, it's just like this disgusting, oily, greasy mess. This has had some wax and grease remover, so it's softened up now, but it is just such a unbelievable mess under here. The nice thing about it is that it protected from rust, so everything was in really good shape under there, but that was 4 days laying under the cab, not full days, but about 4 days to get it cleaned up and painted. I think I went through around 2 gallons of wax and grease removers and paint thinners and different kinds of things to just get it cleaned up. It was gross, and it's pretty much done. I'm probably going to paint it a little bit more once it's on the truck, but the cab was just so low to the ground that after 4 days I just could not lay under there anymore. And then a couple of the really big items are I've now got the block sent out, and that's getting bored out right now, 20 over, and there's going to be some new pistons and rings and that coming back with it. And then the other really big one is that I've sent my shocks back down to California. I haven't talked about this much on the channel. This is something that I've really tried to avoid bad-mouthing Carly. We don't have the final answer back yet, but I spent a ferocious amount of money on the top-of-the-line suspension kit for this truck, and it has just been the worst ride quality you can possibly imagine. Everybody talks about what a great ride quality Carly has, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Possibly it was valved for a 3rd gen truck instead of a 2nd gen, and I think those are about 1,000 pounds heavier, so I'm hoping it's something like that, but they've been very resistant to the idea that there's anything wrong with it. So I have bought a nitrogen gauge in the past for a couple $100 just to confirm that the pressure wasn't too high. I've been on the phone with them probably 6 or 8 times trying to just make sure that it wasn't something with tire pressures or you know, the swing shackles on my leaf springs being too tight or all that kind of stuff, and we just can never get to the bottom of it. If they tell me that there's nothing wrong with it, I will be sending the shocks to AccuTune down in the States. I've heard from a couple people that that's the place to go, and I am just so completely unsatisfied with the ride quality. based on the description, it talks about it being the pinnacle of on and off-road ride quality and things like that. But I mean, if you're driving down a gravel road with potholes doing 30 or 40 miles an hour, the whole truck is just bouncing and shaking, and I mean, it is brutal. On road, you know, it has there's not much body roll and things like that, but you drive over an expansion joint or anything, any kind of bump, and the truck just shakes. Like, it's terrible ride quality. So I'm hoping that they come up with some sort of reason as to why that is, but if they don't, there's no way I would be leaving it like that. I would have to send it off to AccuTune to get dealt with, and it cost me $220 just to ship the shocks down there. On top of that, nitrogen gauge, and let's be honest here, I paid less than 4,000 Canadian for this truck, and the suspension was probably around 10 grand Canadian with all the duty and fees and stuff like that. So, you know, to say I'm disappointed would be the understatement of the year. This has been by far the biggest disappointment of any purchase I've ever made ever. So I'm hoping that we can find a solution to that. I'm really trying to not badmouth Carly, but you know, unless they find something wrong with those, I mean, I'm shocked if that is the ride quality that they consider to be good. So anyways, fingers crossed, hopefully they find an issue and you know, we can move on from there. But anyways, that's something that was has been going on for probably the last year or so, back and forth with them and trying to find a solution. Okay, so it's time to discuss some of the harsh realities of my situation, both time and finance. First of all, I'm moving pretty soon, and the amount of time that I can sort of diddle around with things on this truck is pretty much over. I need to get this thing back together ASAP, and what that means is there's a few things that are just not going to be able to happen right now, and part of this is also to do with money. I didn't have the greatest year in 2020 financially. I'm already out of pocket tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars on this project, and as it sits, I just need to get it back together. It's not ideal, but it just is what it is. When you're in a project like this, sometimes life just happens. So first of all, the wiring is definitely going on the back burner. I'll fix whatever sketchy crap is kind of right in front of me and stuff like that, but in terms of making a new harness and all those kind of things, it is completely unfeasible at the moment. You know, we're entering into June right now. My daughter starts school in September in a completely different city, and we're trying to figure out now where we're going to be living and trying to deal with buying a house and all that kind of stuff. So you know, in case you don't know or you're not from around here, the real estate market in British Columbia is absolutely insane. It is so unbelievably expensive to find something. I don't even know what kind of shop I'm going to have at the next place, or if I even will have a shop, and I have just got to get this thing together and just move on. So anyways, there's that one. The wiring, you know, some of it will get dealt with, but it's come to my attention that my whole issue with the truck not staying in lockup is actually to do with another throttle position sensor going bad, and apparently there is a fix for that from Power Driven Diesel called the bell crank bushings. A couple other things that I'm definitely going to be going back on stuff that I said is first of all, the rear brakes. I would like to replace all those parts, but the reality is they worked fine. I've had another look at the groove and the drums, and it doesn't seem terrible, so I might get those turned or something, but they did work. I mean, I'll probably just be putting those together to save some money. The next thing is I was talking about getting a Hamilton head. Part of the reason that I wanted to do that was faster spool up, and as a couple people have mentioned in other videos, I should just go back to the stock cam if I want that. So I'm going to be doing that. You know, down the road, if I decide to put a head on, great, but to throw an expensive part like that at it when I could just toss the cam that I have back in there is definitely the solution I should be going with. So I just have to swap the cam gears over, and I can go ahead and do that. And then the last one is the cooling system. I've had some very light overheating issues in the past, and to be honest with you, there's something I can't get out of my head. Anytime I've been working around the engine, kind of above the exhaust manifold where the heater core lines go in through the firewall, I feel like anytime you bump them, they seem to splash or like a little bit of water comes out. And they're brand new lines, they've got the clamps on them and everything, but it's really made me wonder, is there an air bubble inside the heater core because the heater has never really worked that great in here. So I'm gonna try and confirm that. But again, you know, the radiator is pretty easy to pull out, and that 9-blade fan from Geno's is something that at this time is just a luxury. I would like to do those in the future, I'm sure I will, but they're so easy to get at. The stuff I have now does kind of work, so I'm just gonna have to just get that stuff together. I am just gonna try and get as much stuff done as I can. I'll show you guys the process and you know, how things are coming along, but for right now, I just have got to go 100% get this truck back together as soon as, you know, reasonably possible. So anyways, thanks for coming by. I will be putting out another one pretty soon, and I hope you have a good day. Take care.